And it's still Monday, the 16th day in the month of March 2026. And it is still the Ultimate Money Show here on Raypower 100.5 FM, 7:34 a.m. And it is time for us to check out the papers and see the stories that are making headlines. And I mean myself, Dima, and
Chooks, absolutely. And I'm sure the papers will have a whole lot of interesting stories for us this morning.
And don't forget that we are also live on YouTube at this moment, Raypower Abuja, where you can also watch this live and also share your contribution, depending on any of the headline stories that really pique your interest. So, starting off with Al Jazeera Nigeria, where the big story is on the 2027 Guba election, says Benue APC PDP aspirants team up against Alia vow to unseat incumbent governor. The story is on page 9. First Lady celebrates women's resilience and courage on Mother's Day. This one opens on the front page here and it continues on page 8. Now, on Quds Day, Iran urges justice for Palestinians. Page 9 read, that's a bit of a foreign story there. Activists decry president's oil spills, or persistent rather, I beg your pardon. Activists decry persistent oil spills, slow pace of cleanup in Niger Delta. That one is on page 17. Fear grips FCT communities as bandits issue attack notice. That is on page 16. Troops snap suspected ISWAP informant in Yobe State. Page 8 read there. Uber, Bolt drivers, orders embark on strike over fuel price hike and maintenance. That is on page 21. Now on legislative leadership and parliamentary diplomacy, shaping Africa's future is the big question and the big story here. Read that on page 20. New electoral law matter, Otomi urges amendment of continuous provisions, that is on page 5, and Nigeria seeks global partnership to accelerate women's empowerment. The story is on page 20, and that's about it from Al Jazeera Nigeria.
All right, now to the front page of the New Telegraph, we have Middle East crisis. NLC demands tax relief, cost of living allowance, how war threatens Nigerian business sustainability by CPPE. Iran guards vow to pursue and kill Israeli PM Netanyahu, and Pope renews appeal for peace in Middle East. On ending season of defections, opposition senators realign ahead 2027 elections, pages 9 and 10. Tinubu to hold bilateral meeting with Starmer as UK unveils program for state visits, page 3. Why Senate won't pass 2026 budget tomorrow as proposed, that's on page 2. Security nabs 4 bandits at Akure Airport, fan to fortify aerodrome with perimeter fencing, page 8. Pollutants in candlelight linked to cancer risk, that's a study on page 30. Your nation's heroes, Oluremi Tinubu hails Nigerian mothers, page 4 and 5. 2027, Kalu Orji Ikpeazu set up committee for Tinubu APC's victory in Abia, page 2. NAF approves 12-month salary for families of slain personnel, page 6. How to curb delay in corruption trials, that's from lawyers on page 14 of the New Telegraph. We also have electricity, Togo seeks higher power supply from Nigeria, page 25. And Nigeria boosts exports to African countries by 43.6% to 13.13 trillion naira. That's on the front page and continues on page 3. And that's it for the New Telegraph.
And now what really starts as what he titled APC defection plot really starts off the big story on this Nigerian newspaper. And it says Bala Mohammed under fire. And the writer to the story says it's embarrassing, shameful, Shehu Sani, others mock PDP Governors Forum chair. And party meets for reconciliation, Lamido hails weakest leadership, and also opposition fear one-party state. The story you can read on page 2. Now, federal government here, mining firm plotting to embarrass Tinubu during UK visit. That is on page 6. Thugs disrupt ADC Secretariat commissioning in Bakassi. page 21 read. And on the fuel price hike, give workers immediate tax relief, NLC tells federal government. Low income earners going through hard times. Read that on page 5. Beside the nameplate of this Nigeria, bank charges discourage us from depositing our money coming from customers. You can read that on page 14, and that is from this Nigeria.
All right, now to the disclosure news. We have 2027 rampage as Tinubu's supporters fight at campaign rally. Youths revolt, protest non-payment, loot empowerment materials. I want Sheyi Tinubu on strategy. That's coming from Honor. And immorally disruption, attempt to undermine youth empowerment. That's coming from the City Boy movement. That starts on the front page and continues on page 3 of the disclosure news. We also have probe NNPC's 5.9 billion naira spendings on rebranding. Serap tells Tinubu on page 5. Electricity. Nigeria to increase export to Togo amid acute shortage. Page 8. Killing of His Royal Highness Eze Francis Igwe, assault on Nigeria's traditional institution. That's from IPAC on page 10. FG raises alarm, accuses Jupiter Limited of plotting smear campaign during Tinubu's UK visit, page 11. And Oshun polls, Adeleke warns against use of federal might. That's the front page of the disclosure news.
Now to the front page of Daily Global. The big story is on 2027. It says Tinubu wants to contest against himself, and this is coming from Daily Momodu. Now to other stories. UK-bound 74-year-old grandpa arrested at Abuja airport with 11 kilograms cocaine in balloons. All right. 22-year-old Nigerian student dies after plasma donation in Canada. Sad story. Now, to more stories here. Methodist bishop, activist Ewa harp on the significance of Lenten season. Now, ex-IGP Egbe Tokun says 3 prayers guided tenor. And on the 2025 Gati report, Abia, Borno, Ekiti, Anambra, Kaduna, Osun, Delta, Kano, Enugu, and Kogi rank performing states. Tottenham strike late to stun Liverpool. Now, this one is a bit of a sports story here. Anyway, to other stories ahead of the nameplate of the Daily Global, police arrest 2 customs officers for allegedly killing driver in Osun State. And that's it from the Daily Global.
All right, now to the Observer's Times, we have Where is the Money? ADC challenges APC to explain missing subsidy savings. Party rejects incitement labels, citing 63% poverty and 500% fuel hikes as proof of failed reforms. That's on page 1 of the Observer's Times. NAF announces 12-month salary package for families of fallen heroes. Page 4. NSCDC detains child trafficking suspects, rescues 5 babies in Imo. Page 4. Ramadan Lent. Chief of Army Staff tasks soldiers on discipline, unity. Page 8. Suspected APC thugs disrupt ADC gathering in Cross River. Page 7. PDP Governors Forum Chair Bala Mohammed set to defect to APC. Page 3. And ADC reinstates Ireti Kingibe, suspends 3 ward executives. Page 2. That's it for the Observer's Times.
Okay, now to the Standard Times. Probe alleged 5.9 billion naira spent on rebranding NNPC to NNPCL. Serap tells Tinubu. And this story opens on the front page, continues on page 2. Shell resumes production at Bonga as it completes turnaround maintenance on FPSO. Page 3, read there. Togo 6 increased electricity imports from Nigeria. Page 2. And 2 travelers injured in suspected bandit ambush on Zamfara Highway. Page 3. UK-bound 74-year-old grandpa nabbed with 11 kg cocaine. Page 2, read there. Navy destroy illegal refining sites. Arrest 37 miners in Bayelsa State. This one is on page 3. Zamfara tragedy issue. College director killed after paying 25.7 million naira motorcycles to rescue family from bandits. That's a very sad story, and that is on page 4. Defection case, court rules in favor of Suleiman Gumi in Abuja on page 4. Now, waste vendors protest at Ogun Assembly demand sack of Environment Commissioner. That you can read on page 3. Now, above the nameplate of Standard Times, FAAC shares 1.894 trillion naira to federal government, state, local government in February. Opens on the front page here, continues on page 13. And Supreme Court affirms AMCON's sale of Lagos Continental Hotel for 22 billion naira. That you can read on page 8. And lastly, Nova Bank appoints Jude Anele as managing director and the CEO, also on page 8. That's it from the Standard Times.
All right, now moving on to the Mirror. We have police, army, others accused of 1.3 trillion naira annual extortion at Southeast checkpoints. That's from Fenrand on page 6. NAFDAC, FCCPC, Right Foods advocate stronger consumer protection framework, page 8. UK-bound grandpa nabbed with 11 kg cocaine at Abuja airport in balloons. We also have big umbrella or a golden cage. That's a question. Nigeria's vanishing choices, page 2. 4 killed, 4 injured as truck rams commercial bus on Lekki Ekpe Expressway, page 13. That's the front page of the Mirror. We're going to brief break and return with business. So stay with us.
This is the newspaper review.
Welcome back. All right, so now looking at the business diary, we have Nigerians growth over transport fare hike as fuel price adjustment continues amidst ongoing US-Israel-Iran war. Page 2 read. CBN directs banks, others to increase ATMs deployment within 3 years. Page 8. We also have equities investors consolidate, reap 777 billion naira as banking, insurance sectors recapitalization advance. Page 9. And lastly, FG states LG's distribute 1.89 trillion naira February revenue. Page 5.
All right, now to the business NG. Nigeria breweries Guinness set to hike product prices over rising cost. Page 2. Now, probe 5.9 billion naira spent on NNPC rebranding. Sarah petitions Tinubu. Read that on page 2 as well, although opens on the front page here of the business NG. After 4.05 trillion naira capital raise, investors question banks' next move. Page 2 read. Naira holds steady amid global tension. FX reserves bolster market confidence. Also on page 2. Now, Bauchi governor in defection talks as APC woos PDP governors forum chair. Page 2 read. An ADC faction sets April 3rd to 5th for national convention amid leadership dispute. Now, a bit of those stories there on the front page of the business NG. Now, above the nameplate of the business NG, storm over registrar Bossa appointment at Federal Polytechnic Ayede. Allegations of process manipulation and name dropping shake confidence. That one is on page 11. Meanwhile, Togo eyes boost in electricity import from Nigeria. And that's it from the business NG. And that's about it for all the papers we'll be checking out this morning, which are the Al Jazeera Nigeria, This Nigeria, Daily, Global, Standard Times, the business story from the business NG here.
We looked at the New Telegraph, Disclosure News, Observer's Times, the Mirror, and the Business Diary. So this morning, front pages, most of the stories, recurring. And starting off with what happened in Imo, the City Boy movement that was, that turned south later on, seeing the videos on social media, individuals, youths invading the whole place and just cutting away the belongings there. And well, I just want to say, does that now really mirror how people are not having an easy time, in different parts of the country, seeing people run away, with items that basically are not theirs, signs of hunger, or just people, angry about the current situation of things in the country, and they just decided that was the best thing that they could do, to disrupt, that gathering, because there were also videos, of people happy, they were receiving freezers and, and cool. So there are two sides, to what happened that event. And but I just feel it just shows to an extent that a lot of people are having a tough time right now, and they just saw an opportunity to just go invade and loot, and which is not a good thing. Not though. I'm not defending it,
Mm.
but it's just a mirror of things we've also seen in different parts before. We've seen it happen before. We've seen even cement trucks being raided and they carry, the cement to go sell and whatever, and it just shows you that people are really having a tough time. In the
One
country right now.
dangerous one was the issue of the tank that fell sometime not long ago, in early this year in Lagos, and you see people just rushing to go and scoop for not thinking about the dangers of their lives. Now, that act in itself has two dangers that I can really, really point out, just off the top of my head. You have the danger of this stampede, and then you also have the repercussion of what you have done. It's not right, no matter what you're passing through, to loot another person's own property or even vandalize anybody's belonging. It never speaks well. So whatever that movement has said, whatever the thought, whatever the idea, you didn't take the best approach. And these are the things that you feed people, that is like a cankerworm. You begin to teach people on the idea of looting. You may not be able to control it if it goes out of hand tomorrow. So why don't you just, find another way to settle whatever might be your grievances with the people involved, instead of causing this kind of mass disruption, havoc out there. It never spells well. It never stands well at all.
Absolutely, and absolutely condemning such acts, no matter where it happens. Even if something like that should happen here, and yes, condemn
it. Definitely doesn't speak
totally
good at all.
Wrong. A bit of a concerning one is with the security issue that happened with the airport in Akure, which is on the front page. The New Telegraph reads, security nabs 4 bandits at Akure Airport. Very concerning for them to have been able to get access, first and foremost, to gain access into the airport. And well, thankfully, they were not able to do any harm or cause any harm there. But it's concerning, that was able to happen, that breach there. But good, proactiveness from FAN and security operatives to apprehend 4 of them. I think there were reports from FAN on their X page that I think 1 or 2 fled the scene, though. But it's a bit of a concern. Bit of a concern, security-wise, because if anything had happened to any flight or plane or anything, it would have been, a very troublesome one. So going forward, I think there should be more security measures in that particular airport and other airports across the country as well.
Every week or every month, in fact, every week, things happen in this country that really tells you that we need to really beef up security. We really need to do better, like more than we are already doing. If there is a way where we have allowed some lapses to, seep into our security measures, we just need to close those gaps and just make sure that we do the best as much as possible. Don't also forget that we are live on YouTube right now at Raypower Abuja. In case you just want to watch and share your contribution live on that, you can also do that. And political platform also will be live also on the same handle, Raypower Abuja. So do stay tuned on that. But one of the matters that were reported on some of the papers this morning is that Togo is eyeing Nigeria for electricity. Do we really have enough to?
I mean, we're not even enjoying a lot. I yesterday didn't even have electricity supply throughout the day. I think Park came around 10 p.m., stayed for like 5 minutes, then came up, around 2-3 a.m. because I woke up to use myself, and then stayed for another 10 minutes before it went off. I don't know if
the highest you get these days, if at all you even get, is like 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Sometimes they are under 1 minute, under 60 seconds. Maybe when you just say, thank God, let me go and plug something, boop, everything just goes off. And then your appliances are at risk. But when you see Togo saying, we are really looking forward to this, are we stable? If we can actually do that business with them, does it mean that somebody is just really neglecting us as Nigerians, that we can't really have strong electricity here? For us to be able to give this kind of assistance to other countries, neighboring African countries, what happens to us? We're not even enjoying what we are giving out there. So what's really the issue? If that really happens, then we have a very big question to ask the management taking care of electricity as far as for Nigeria, as far as Nigeria is concerned. You can't be paying for electricity. You're not getting the supply, especially at this moment where we are really dealing with what has been termed heat wave. Everybody is feeling it. And then we don't even have stable power supply to deal with a lot of things. And we're talking about Togo eyeing Nigeria. Eyeing Nigeria. This one is that Nigeria.
We'll see that will happen because first of all, we've been complaining that we don't have enough in terms of the infrastructure, to cater for us as people. We're around 3,900 something megawatts as it is compared to the 4,000 we were on. So there's obviously been, a drop, and then poor gas supply because we've also said the gas supply because of this Middle East crisis as well has been poor. So how do you want to put Togo in the picture, going forward, especially if this, war continues for a prolonged, period of time. So it's a very interesting one to see how we can manage Togo and ourselves as well. If that's possible, I don't even think
about some people bags of food. So the question is, where did I keep the food? Or am I intentionally starving myself?
Big questions.
Very big question. It came up on your own paper earlier. I noted it down and I said, maybe it's just one of something. But now I saw you repeatedly and even on the business story that Togo eyes boosting electricity imports from Nigeria. And I begin to ask the question, really, is this really possible? That subject,
that's a very touchy one.
Very touchy
I'll feel
one.
somehow if we're giving Togo power supply. We're not.
I'm not stingy. I'm just saying before you give them,
let's have enough.
That I have my own and it is stable before you can give anyone.
Let's absolutely
exactly
have it, enough. Well, to the Mirror that reads, police, army, others accused of 1.3 trillion naira annual extortion at Southeast checkpoints. Now that's a big one that has been going on for a while. Comments on that one. I, for one, who traveled to Anambra, that's like 2 years now, by road. It was myself and my friends, road trip for a friend's wedding. And the amount of checkpoints we saw on the way and the way monies were exchanged from drivers to police officers. Even police officers will give you change if you're giving them a very high denominator. I was absolutely surprised. I was like, this is really happening.
In fact, if you have to pay
200 naira, for example, and you're giving 1,000, they will give you change.
It's so crazy that some drivers, like when they carry you, when you are living in that area, all the shuttles, and you don't have change. The driver will be like, don't worry, I will get change on the way. They will reach there, and they will now say, officer, I beg, let me break this one, and they will break that money. Change could take.
Even us, we have to even pay money because of some certain issues. So to just avoid,
the subject of extortion has been a very ugly one.
Well.
That seems as if each time it is raised, it falls on deaf ears, and then we just go back to status quo. It's not supposed to be like that. What is your duty being on the road? Is it supposed to get some? I don't know. I'm not really speaking for anyone, but if I can speak on what I have witnessed more from the police than from the military.
But the military, accusations are both ways.
Sometimes the military, I know of an occasion where I saw a man standing on top of the roof of his car, and it's in a military checkpoint, and it appeared that the man stopped to give them water.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, we send you. We are constant here. It wasn't really fair. It wasn't really fair. But that was him being nice. But that was them like almost saying, we don't really support this. We are here to do our work.
But some of them still ask. There are some who still ask. For good
I'm
personnel.
not saying they don't. I'm
Yes,
saying to a
there's-
very great and I've a very great extent. I've witnessed that more on the part of the police more than on the military. I don't even know that person has seen it that way. I'm not saying that they don't do it, but it is more when you look at the police.
Yeah, but for the new IG, this is another thing to look at. Those
Exactly, to
figures
look
are
into.
really huge. Yes, not just the police, but 1.3 trillion naira from it's absolutely.
We're not talking about
that's a
billions
big
here.
market.
We're talking about trillions.
Yeah, that's a big market for whoever's pocket, that money is
really
going into. And it's a very sad one that Nigerians have to pay that. And also this eventually affects the price of goods, because imagine a businessman, how much to transport your goods you have to pay at every checkpoint,
and that will definitely invariably get into the cost of the sales
of transporting those goods. So it affects you and I at the end of the day. Those in the Southeast, but it's something that really needs to be looked at as well.
Anyway, we've already approached the 8 o'clock mark. Let's take you to the network studio for the news on the hour and a few more conversation before the fact file. But don't forget that political platform will be coming your way at 9:15, and there will be Guess What with Dima at 11:05. My name is Dima, of course.
And I am Chooks. Good morning.
Good. Have yourself a beautiful Monday start.